Okay, so welcome to week 2 of my journey to creating an AI app. I just wanted to say that last week was a bit chaotic because we had the sandbox application for the AI Growth Hub and the disaster that was my email address and everything. I haven't heard back from the government about the email that I said, but they did say it would take 10 working days, and we've only had 7 working days so far. So by next Wednesday, I should hear back from them. And if I don't, then I'll have to contact them again. So this week, I was planning to put more effort into the actual app that I have started. I should say that, I want to say that the app that I am creating is an app for directors of small and medium-sized enterprises, so an SME, apps for SME directors. And the reason I wanted to do this was I alluded to it before, and it was because directors are undersourced, undersourced by the marketplace when it comes to tools and AI technology to help them run their businesses. So this was in pursuit of that I have this directors related application. But the sandbox application to the government made me realize, because I was focusing on one element, it's like the foundational element for the directors app. It made me realize that the component that I was talking to the government about is actually a standalone product. And the more I thought about it, I thought I better do a bit of a pivot. And I'm still on the director's lane or the director's track, but this is like a kind of side alley to that. And so I have spent this week fleshing out the constitution, if you like, of the side alley app. So it runs in parallel. So AI has been a great help to me in that pivot, because it gives you more of an idea of what you have to do, even though that wasn't your primary focus. It was just, like I say, a foundational thing. It wasn't like the key thing. So it got me thinking that, there's a whole bunch of people out there who may be thinking of leaving their job, who have already been made redundant by AI, or may have been in retirement for a bit, or decided to drop out of the workforce during COVID. There's a whole bunch of reasons why people of our age want to do something different. And what I wanted to say here was, you can have a whole career of experience, skills, knowledge, experience in a domain, and know that there are gaps in the marketplace that should be filled. And you know this from your own experience working, or your own experience even as a consumer. And you've probably thought to yourselves, I can think of a solution for this in the workplace or in my own personal life. But the technology, the expense of the technology to build whatever it was you were thinking could be a good solution, just wasn't feasible in the past. But now, with the advent of AI, you have pretty much a free workforce to help you create your app. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm using AI tools to help me build this particular product that I'm looking at. So it occurred to me that maybe this is something that other people might want to do. And so I just wanted to kind of run through a few things that you could do in the AI field to help you along, to see if this is something you could actually benefit from. AI isn't just for summarizing an email or chucking your terms and conditions of a contract and asking you to, look at what are your liabilities and so on in summary, you can actually do some really serious thinking with, well, not us thinking, AI thinking for you in a way, to help you consolidate ideas or dismiss ideas. So what I wanted to say was, there are so many models that you can use, not just the giants that you are told about all of the time, like ChatGPT or Gemini, which is owned by Google, or indeed Claude, which is owned by Anthropic. There's a whole bunch of other ones, and they're all good for different things. No one model is good for everything, despite what they say. So what I wanted to quickly run through here was the process that you could perhaps use to see if your idea has wings, and you can do it for free, and you can get a lot of feedback, and you may find that you can actually enter the space yourself with a solution to a problem that you have found. So for example, I knew somebody who worked for a London council in the surveying department. And this woman, when she retired, she was actually headhunted by a software firm who wanted to create some software. I think it was Camden Council or something like that. They wanted to create some software for surveying departments of public bodies like councils. And they asked her for all of her experience, which she went through, her workflow and everything. And they created software. I don't know whether she got like a fee or whether she had like a residual or whatever it was, but she got paid. And they created the software on the back of her experience. And it occurred to me that there's so many people, particularly our age, like I say, who have retired or are about to retire or who are being pushed out of the marketplace, who have this wealth of knowledge that they can actually exploit. Although I should say, if you are still in the workplace and are thinking of exploiting your knowledge and your skill or your experience, then you should think about where you conduct your research and your designing and building of this tool. Don't do it at work, because your employer could say that the work is theirs. When you finish it, it might not belong to you, kind of from a rights point of view. So if you are thinking of doing this, do it on your own time with your own resources in your own house or somewhere where you have access that isn't your workplace. So be careful of that. And another friend who works for a housing association in London in the housing department, I was suggesting, because she was thinking of tools, and I was suggesting that maybe she could come up with an AI agent that could take calls from members of the public, so council house owners, when they need information about repairs and maintenance, and have queries or rent arrears questions or whatever. You often find that the telephone line to the council or the housing association is only open 9 to 5. They normally close the line by 3:30, as we all know, and you can't get hold of these people during office hours if you're working. So a good idea would be to have this AI-based system that can take the calls in any language, and you don't have to write, you can just speak, and you can get your answers and you can give your feedback. So that was just another idea. There's so many ideas. There's a friend of David's who was a quality assurance guy for clinical trials at a pharmaceutical company. And there's a whole bunch of things with his knowledge. He's had like 25 plus years of knowledge, a whole bunch of knowledge that he could adopt AI technology to help pharmaceutical companies with clinical trials to get through all of that data, because it's a lot of data processing and stuff. I don't know the full details of it. All I know is you can use it in so many different ways, depending on what you did for your career or careers, And you may be able to run with an idea that you've been thinking of but never had the means to employ a team of developers and database administrators and whatever. You don't have to do that anymore. You can actually use artificial intelligence to help you get further along that continuum to the end point where you have a product. So that's that. So on the subject of LLMs, so large language models, there's a whole bunch, like I say. You pretty much have the American sphere, and then you have the Chinese or Sinosphere, and then you have pretty much one European company. The European company is Mistral. It's French. It's known for its privacy. So it's a pretty well governed large language model in terms of your data. So there's that. These are the cloud based ones I'm talking about. And then you have the American contingent. So that's your ChatGPT, or as I call it, Noel. My version of ChatGPT is Noel because he's a Noel and he answers all of my questions for me. And it's like having a person that I can question about anything. So there's ChatGPT. You have Gemini, which is owned by Google, as I said. You have Claude, which is owned by Anthropic. So that's the third American one. These are all venture capital backed, I think. You have Copilot, which is owned by Microsoft. And then you have the one that you dare not speak of because of its debauched applications. So I won't bother talking about that one. But you have four principal American ones. And they're good for the research and analysis side of your idea. So you may want to get the idea out of your head and you want to question the AI about what you can do with the knowledge that you have. You can ask the AIs, look, this is what I know. This is how long I've, done this particular thing with this particular skill. Tell me what I could, create out of it that the market might need. So you might know the answer yourself, but you might want some other ideas because maybe your idea isn't big enough. So you can get the idea from AI. You can also get the research done by AI. And Google Gemini and Claude are amazing on research. Google, you can do deep research with them as you can with Claude. No, sorry, as you can with Noel or ChatGPT. And you can get this research for free with these two models. You can get deep research with Claude, but you don't get their best model. You get their mid-range model if you want to do it for free. And there are limits on what you can use it for. And I'll talk to you about limits and how to get around them in a second. And then you have these Chinese models, and they are phenomenal models when it comes to things like analysis and data processing. So if you have huge amounts of data that you want to get through, they're pretty amazing. And they do have reasoning as well. And where they shine is on coding. They are phenomenal for coding as well. So your Chinese models that you might want to look into are DeepSeek. We've probably heard about that because they were giving OpenAI a run for its money when it comes to costs because they are so cheap to run, so cheap. It's a pay-as-you-go model, generally speaking, and you can get so much for free anyway. But if you want deeper reasoning or larger context windows, then you do have to pay, but it's really pennies on the pound rather than, the fees, the monthly fees that ChatGPT and Claude are charging you for, and Gemini Pro are charging you for. Much, much cheaper, like a tenth of the price. You have Kimi, Kimi, that's another Chinese model, phenomenal model, really good for coding, very snappy in its responses, isn't really long-winded like ChatGPT. Noel goes on and on and on with some of these answers. It drives me mad, to be honest, but Kimi is very concise with its responses. So you have Kimi, you have Z.ai, and I think it's Jipu is how it's pronounced. That's another great analytical model from China. And there was another one, but I can't remember the name of it. Qwen. I call it Gwen, but it's Qwen. Qwen is another model. Again, it has deep reasoning, and it also does analytics and coding and everything. And also generative AI. So that particular model can also do images and videos and things like that. So if you maybe were thinking of doing a training application or something like that, then videos would probably be up your street. Yeah, those are the principal ones from China. I haven't really mentioned Microsoft Copilot because it's kind of a bit of a lightweight, to be honest. From what I get from it, it isn't the greatest AI out there on much, but it is there, and you can get quite a bit of free back and forth with it. Now, a lot of these models will only allow you to question them for a certain amount of time, and then you have to resume within, say, 4 or 5 hours, which isn't great if you want your back and forth to be instant. So the way to get around it, this is how I got around it, is you open multiple email accounts, which most people should have anyway, because you have one for your email, one for your spam mail. When you apply for something online, you don't give your real address, you give some random address that you keep for all your rubbish emails. You can have one for that. So I have about 5 emails. All of them have the same password because I couldn't possibly remember 5 email passwords. So you have all these emails, and then you apply to all of the models. So you sign up, and then if you have ideas, you keep one idea for each email. So if, for example, I was thinking of doing the clinical trials thing, I would use all of the models in relation to clinical trials. And then if I was thinking of doing the housing association thing, I'd use all of the models for that. So you just use a different email for all the things you want to research. And that way you get so much more out of it, and you can kind of run it all day. Otherwise, you do have to pay for a subscription. And if you want the Claude model, you cannot get a free trial. But if you have ChatGPT, you can get the Pro model for 30 days on a free trial. So that's another way of doing it. You could have a 30-day free trial with one email, and then when your 30 days is up, you could try another 30-day trial with another email or with another member of your family that you use the thing for. So you could actually get around it. I actually pay for mine now, ChatGPT, but all the other ones I have on a free subscription. On Kimi, they run a competition where if you respond to their ridiculously young person questions in the right way, you can get the subscription to come down to 89 pence. And I managed to do that at Christmas, to get a month's trial for 89 pence. So you can do that, but it is kind of ridiculous, but it's worth it just to try the model out at that deeper level. That's pretty much it for the models themselves. What I will say is, when you have ideas with these models, they will tell you that your idea is amazing, no matter how ridiculous your idea is. They don't like to hurt your feelings for some reason. They've been programmed to think that everyone's fantastic. So they will say, that's an amazing idea, you should do it. And if you go on Claude, it will even give you your pricing model, and it will go mental and tell you'll be, earning £1 billion within a month. It's kind of a bit like that. So you have to do quite a lot of pushback and get real with it. You are not a genius necessarily. Your idea isn't necessarily the next $1 billion idea, and just to kind of know that they're quite hyperbolic, and you need to keep your feet firmly on the ground and push back and ask for, the downside to what you're doing, and not just the upside. But you have to ask for it, because they won't tell you, because they want to please the human. They've been programmed to please us for some reason. What else did I want to talk about? I wanted to say that, yeah, the matrix of emails, do yourself a matrix of the models, what they're good at, and when you're going through your process for your business idea, that you use the right model for the right part of your process. So, for example, I don't know if I went through this earlier, I can't remember, I'm terribly sorry, that's an old lady's brain, but you start with your idea and then you think about the research for your idea, and then you come up with like I've got it written down here, sorry. I had this written down, now I've lost it. The research, and then you come up with your business model canvas. So that's like a 1-page business plan. So you don't have to write 30, 40 pages, although you could ask AI to do that. You really do an analysis of your canvas, which, you talk about customers and markets and value propositions and the resources that you'll require and the distribution channels you might be able to consider. All of these things are all on one sheet of paper, and you can print it off A4 or A3 and then fill it out with AI so that you can see exactly where your product fits in the market, and whether it's a good fit for you, because it may be a great idea, but it may not be a good fit for what you want out of it in terms of revenue or income or dividends or whatever you want from your business. So it's quite a good way of structuring your idea and the potential of your idea. And then from the business model canvas, you would then do like a product definition. And from there, you would use different models, the more technical and able models in terms of coding and building, you would use those models. So your product requirements document, and then your building, so your coding of everything, and then your testing. So those would be, in my opinion, they should be the Chinese models and Claude code. So you do Claude and the Chinese models for your coding, and then you use the other models, the American models plus Claude, for your ideas and your research. And then the analysis, I'd stick to the Chinese models. They're much, much cheaper, and they give you a lot of context window, and they can analyze really huge banks of data if you're doing your market research and you want information. For example, the clinical trials guy could have thousands and thousands of data points analyzed by these large language models from China. I think that's about it. So that was all I wanted to talk about today, was the fact that I had pivoted a little on the road to my director's app, and then how I'm using AI to help me along that new track, and how I still haven't heard back from the government, but that's okay, still got time yet, and how next week we will be getting more into finalizing the open source element of what I'm creating, because there is an open source element that I will be releasing on GitHub, the repository website, and then there is a proprietary element to what I'm creating. So all fun and games here. That's about it for this week. If anyone's got any questions, or if anyone wants to add any insights, I'd be grateful. I'm also hoping to get an interview with a young person who's very technically minded to talk about AI. And it may, you never know, inspire one of you to take something up that you want to pursue on the AI front. Okay, I'm wittering now, so I'm going to get off the line. I will be here next week, next Friday, with a new take on this road to I don't know, my husband's looking at me. I'm going now. I will see you next week. Goodbye.